On April 25th, the biggest blunder in Tarkov history would be achieved with the reveal and subsequent release of the Unheard Edition. And man, I have never seen a game fall from grace so quickly. The developers of Escape from Tarkov, Battlestate Games, introduced a egregiously priced pay-to-win bundle, while subsequently lying to their fan base and rightfully upsetting them and a lot of people on the internet alike.
All future DLC was supposed to be for people that bought the most expensive edition. So now, if all of a sudden they're calling things features and making you buy extra expansions, they are lying to you. They are deceiving you. That's the problem in the situation.
The website question comes up, and Nikita says, we didn't remove that. So who's editing your webpage, Nikita?
The best case scenario here is another game comes and does what EFT does better and isn't led by the greediest, stupidest people in the industry. That's the best case scenario here, but who knows how long something like that will take.
The game is not finished, it's not released. So there shouldn't be features of the game that are additional payments when the game is unfinished. Finish the game and then you can make stuff that costs extra money. You're taking these people's money and you're making features that they don't get in the game that they paid you to fund.
Now, I've made a video talking about the over-monetization of video games. I believe it was called the over-monetization of video games. But man, Battlestate Games has just earned the award for the most egregious monetization in history for their new pre-order edition of Escape from Tarkov. At a staggering 250 United States dollars, this is unheard of in terms of video game monetization. That $250 price tag is more than my Wi-Fi, phone, and auto insurance bills combined. That's not even considering the taxes you're going to have to pay when you purchase that edition of the game. It would cost me about $260 to buy that edition of the game on a fresh account. Now that's going to vary between states or provinces, but the base $250 alone, even if you paid no taxes on it, would still be too much. Now this is gonna sound crazy, but the price tag isn't even the main issue. It's the fact that this edition of the game not only locks content behind a massive paywall, it also provides multiple tangible benefits that actively influence aspects of player versus player. In other words, this is pay to win. People have argued that the different editions of the game were pay to win from the beginning, and a lot of the defenders of the game responded to those claims by saying that you're paying for convenience, not paying to win. I'd argue that getting any advantage because you paid more is pay to win, regardless of if it directly influences PvP or not. But for the newest edition of the game, there are bonuses that simply cannot be earned through normal gameplay. The enhanced stash and the expanded pockets cannot be earned. The bonus skills can be earned, but they still provide an immediate advantage over other players, so I believe them to be pay to win. And while that might sound bad, it gets worse. Had it just been the previously mentioned stuff, people would have been very upset, but most people would not be boycotting the game like they are now. Locked behind this edition, the Unheard Edition, is a new offline mode that isn't subject to Tarkov's 6-month wipe system. You might be thinking, why does a new mode being added matter? And why are people upset about it? That by itself isn't a bad thing. But the issue is the previous most expensive version of the game, the Edge of Darkness edition, which had a $150 price tag, promised, and I quote, access to all subsequent DLC. And I'd argue that a new mode would count as DLC, but apparently Battlestate Games does not think that. In their second Reddit post addressing the controversy, they said, quote, first of all, PvE is not a DLC. DLC, in our understanding, are major additions to the game, including various functionality and content packs that are released after the official release of the game as a themed DLC pack. Scav Life DLC, for example, which will add a lot of new mechanics and content for Scav gameplay and leveling. End quote. Let me say this directly to BSG. You cannot have both. If content released now isn't DLC because the game hasn't fully released, that means what we paid for is a pre-order. And if what we paid for is truly a pre-order, there has to be an option to cancel that pre-order and receive a full refund. And if that's not the case, then EOD players are entitled to this mode permanently, as the benefits clearly say that we are. And for those who might argue that we simply paid for early access to the closed beta, the point of a beta is to test out aspects of the game. Generally speaking, when you gain access to a beta, you get access to all the content held within that beta to test it. Hence why beta is usually short for beta testing. Now, there have been some games that existed in beta for extended periods of time to be able to have more lenient rules in terms of quality assurance of updates on Xbox and PlayStation. Tarkov is not on Xbox or PlayStation. The game that did this was Fortnite, and within that beta, players received access to all content with only Save the World being locked behind a paywall. Fortnite existed in beta for 3 years compared to Tarkov's 7. There was no payment required to play Fortnite, and there still isn't. Epic never released a Edge of the Ring edition of Fortnite, promising access to Save the World or any other packages like that. A point I haven't seen many people talk about is when BSG stated, quote, "Now you have the opportunity to test this mode by purchasing the Unheard edition of the game or upgrade to this version. We also decided to give a 50% discount when upgrading to the Unheard version from the EOD version. We plan to send one free Left Behind edition key to everyone who has already upgraded to the Unheard edition at the old price from the EOD version." End quote. This key is useless to those players. Just refund the difference. All that will happen with these keys is that they will be sold probably to cheaters at a far cheaper price than the game is usually sold. Some might say to give these keys to their friends who have not played Tarkov before, but what player in their right mind would start playing Tarkov for the first time after this situation? Perhaps someone at BSG thought this exact thing, and instead of the game key, they've decided to give players a $50 coupon for EFT purchases, which doesn't really make sense. I'm not sure how someone would use a $50 coupon on a $15 outfit, but sure, this just seems like a roundabout way to not give people a refund. And speaking of cheaters, with this new PvE mode, there has been a huge flaw introduced into Tarkov's code. In layman's terms, the fact that the offline mode requires you to be online allows some cheaters to join your offline server. So cheaters can join your offline server and vacuum all of the loot and take that loot to the PvP version of the game. So not only are you not safe from cheaters playing offline, cheaters can basically vacuum loot with no delay. Keep in mind that the offline version does not wipe, meaning people can have end of wipe gear on day 1 of a new wipe if they pay a real money trader. If this issue isn't fixed, it could have long-term ramifications on the game's health more so than the pay-to-win stuff. So real money trading is about to become more of an issue. According to this data miner, to be able to fix this, BSG would have to pull PvE off of the live server. This user suggested that the PvE servers be completely offline and stored on your local device to prevent them from being exploited, which makes sense. Another thing that can be exploited by cheaters is the distress signal device that will be added to Tarkov at a later date. The addition of that will allow cheaters to force themselves into already existing raids. So get ready to see your favorite streamers get sniped for hours at a time. And if you manage to kill a cheater, they might rejoin the raid and kill you. Escape from Tarkov has quickly evolved from adding upgrades that provided advantages and cosmetics to blatant pay-to-win options and essentially lying to players about the benefits of their pre-order edition, then retroactively changing the description of those benefits and introducing game-breaking bugs in the name of profit. It is actually insane how fast Tarkov went from adding skins to adding pay-to-win macro transactions. The only other game I can think of that has monetization this terrible is Warface. And for those who don't know, Warface is a free-to-play shooter that has a helmet that stops you from getting headshot that you can buy for real-world money. But at the very least, Warface is not charging the price of a complete AAA game. Not even EA has gone this low. Well, they did the whole pay-to-win thing with Battlefront 2, but at least after the backlash, they apologized and backstepped. After 3 separate statements, BSG has finally caved and said they will be giving players most of what they want. But I will take this as a bold-faced lie until I see or hear convincing evidence that they are keeping their word. They have only made promises for a later date, but based on this situation, these promises are likely not to be kept either. You cannot lie to your fans and then tell them that in the future you're going to be truthful. You have to prove that you are going to be truthful. They then clarified the exact benefits and balance changes they made to the different editions of the game, only to reveal that they're adding more pay-to-win features to the EOD version of the game. If I had constant complaints about rampant cheating, the last thing I would want in my game is the addition of a pay-to-win edition of the game that confirms to my community that I never cared about delivering on my promises. But what do I know? I don't run a business or develop games. But what I do know is that no matter what BSG says, no matter what Nikita says or does, there is nothing that this company can do to regain the trust of not only the general public, but of the hardcore players who have supported this franchise for the better part of a decade. The mode that BSG wants players to fork over hundreds of dollars for already exists as a mod that can be installed for free, provided you own the game. It's called Single Player Tarkov, or SPT. This is essentially the PvE zone that BSG wants you to buy. Now, I am not encouraging you or anybody to play this mod because BSG can always ban you for using it. All I'm saying is that this $100 mode can be acquired by searching these specific terms on Google to include a co-op version of this mode. I am only telling you guys this so that you don't accidentally search them up. It is truly a shame to see a game as ambitious as Tarkov die because of what seems to be greed. There is no other game as realistic, as in-depth, as artistically perfect as Tarkov is. Point blank, that game does not exist. Not yet, at least. Maybe it was greed. Maybe this is just a way for BSG to recuperate lost money from the colossal failure that Arena was. Maybe it's as simple as the company trying to make a quick last buck before they abandon their game. I'm not sure of why they did this, but what I am sure of is that if they continue to make these terrible decisions, we will never get the chance to escape from Tarkov.